That's right, week 2 football. It's kind of the thing right now. So it's week 2 football. We're super excited about it, obviously. Before we get into it, obviously you can go on to FantasySmackTalk.com. Ask us any questions that you like in the forums. We got us and our team of experts. They'll certainly answer them. But first, let's get into a little bit of a tip.
And also with the forum stuff, a lot of people post messages on YouTube. We like to just keep them in the forums and keep them all in one place. We're not jumping from one video to the other, answering all the questions. Nice, neat, and tidy, and our army of experts are in there as well.
It's good stuff.
All right, so we talked about a waiver wire tip last week. We're going to talk about some this week as well. And the thing I want to talk about is I've seen some people when they decided to use their waiver number, a lot of times, they decided to use their number 1 or number 2 waiver. They just go ahead and put a couple others in as well, pick up a different defense, pick up their kicker or whatever because they figure I'm using my waiver. Why not? You actually need to rethink that because if you're using a really good waiver, number 1 or number 2, yours is going to get processed first, which means you are the first one that goes back up to 12 or 10 or whatever it is. Then everyone behind you that uses it bumps you back down. So you might use the number 1, number 2 waiver and only put 1 in, get your guy, and still get like the 5th or 6th waiver in some cases. So just be careful. Don't overdo it with waiver.
And if you want to be really, really sneaky and not use your waiver, especially if you're like a number 1 and you don't want to pick up a guy like Kevin Ogletree, what you basically do, or possibly Cobb, but that's another story, another argument. But what you want to do is most sites will clear waivers at midnight Pacific time. So 3 a.m. East Coast time. So at that point, if you want to be crazy and wake up and get in, you can normally log in and see who wasn't going to be claimed and try to pick them up that way as well and keep your waiver priority.
And it would just be crazy if someone didn't use a waiver on Cobb. All right, let's move into the forum questions. First one comes from Aholic. They want to know, this is kind of a tricky one. We got CJ Spiller versus Kansas City or MJD versus Houston. Right now it's a 50-50 split on the homepage as a poll question.
Yeah, this one's real tough. We know the Mojo's going to get the lion's share of the carries, but Houston's a really good run defense, and with Fred Jackson out, I really like CJ Spiller this week. Last year when Fred Jackson went out and CJ was starting, he was a top 6 fantasy back. Clearly he did pretty well week 1. I think that trend continues. It's a tough one, but I'd go CJ Spiller here. All right, Dustin, this comes from Vladzad. He wants to know, should he be starting Doug Martin, who's at the Giants, or Stevan Ridley, who's going against Arizona at home?
Yeah, and this one was slightly towards Doug Martin on the homepage, and I'm going to have to agree with it. Big fan of Doug Martin. Obviously, Ridley played great last week, but I think their upsides are similar, heading into week 2. Their matchups, I think that's pretty much a wash. I think they're pretty similar. So, and that being said, might as well go with the guy that's pretty much a lock to get the carries. It's still a New England running back. I know Ridley did get the carries week 1, but you just can't quite put a ton of stock into it just yet. Go with the safer play. I say Doug Martin.
Yeah, last year Lawford would have 100 yard and like 2 touches, and the next week he get 3 carries. Just still a Patriot team.
Our last forum question comes from Swag Beast 8. We got the hot waiver wire pickup Ogletree at Seattle or Torrey Smith at Philly. Right now, Torrey Smith's getting about 65% of the vote on the homepage.
Love the shout out to SB8, been really active in the forums as well. Out of these 2, to answer your question, I would still go Torrey Smith here. I know Ogletree blew up and had a ridiculous day, but Seattle's a pretty good defense, and I don't see Ogletree ever putting up those numbers that he did week 1, again, for honestly the rest of the season. And Torrey Smith, true, he only had that one really long catch that kind of really helped him out in fantasy land last week, but they're in that no huddle. I'm sure you all heard them talk about that on Monday night 40,000 times. Torrey Smith is still the man out there. It's not Bolden's team as far as receivers go.
It's sleeper and bust time. Let's start with my sleeper, my new man crush, as Nameco would like to say, and that's Randall Cobb.
Timmy Tebow, heartbroken somewhere, crying in the corner.
There's room in my heart for both of them. I really like Randall Cobb, short term, long term. Used the number 1 waiver in a couple leagues. I think he is Antonio Brown to the Steelers. What Antonio Brown is to the Steelers, he kind of came in as a return guy, receiver with upside, older receiver, Hines Ward. Got a little older. Greg Jennings getting a little older. Randall Cobb is going to take over a big part of that offense. And he might even hurt Cedric Benson's value lining up in the backfield in 3rd downs. Love Randall Cobb. Love him this week. My bust, Kobe Fleener against Minnesota. Against Chicago last week, they got behind early. They were throwing a ton. Austin Collie was out. I just don't really think Kobe Fleener is going to have a repeat performance. I don't think it is necessarily a fluke, but don't get too excited about him. But our bet with Brad Evans. Not necessarily looking too good with him winning week 1. Cook had a decent day, though.
Whatever. Flanner's a bum. All right, now we're going to talk about my sleeper, and that's Brandon LaFell. I think that RG3 played great. Not going to take anything away from the kid. But that New Orleans defense looked god-awful. No pressure, linebackers were slow, and their secondary is terrible. Cam's coming off not that great of a week. I don't think he's going to force-feed it to Steve Smith. He's going to be primed to play, spread it around a little bit. I think LaFell is going to crush those secondaries. I like him as a spot start, actually, in some leagues. And then my bust, and it pains me to say, it's going to be Kevin Smith. He's going up against that Niners defense. It's just, it's old school, mean, hit you in the mouth defense. Running backs don't do anything against them. Mr. Glass, a little bit nervous because he is playing such a dirty, nasty team. But again, if you have decent options, I would put him over Smith, but nobody crazy.
Mr. Glass gets hurt this week. I'm calling it now. Just in time for the short to come back. The short takes
I got
the
him in
job.
4 leagues. If he put the hex on him.
Turn back. He put the hex on himself a long time ago. Let's move into Mike's picks. His sleeper, Austin Collie. He can definitely be Luck's best friend in that offense. Kind of his Wes Welker. Kind of a little slot guy that can just really move the chains. If he can keep the concussion stuff under par or under check and just not get any more concussions, how do you do that? But if he does, he could be career ending, honestly. So hopefully he can stay healthy. He does have the upside. He likes Collie this week. His bust, Miles Austin. Austin didn't necessarily get targeted that much last week. And if you take away that one touchdown where I think it was like 1st and 30 or something crazy, kind of fluky. It was a great play. But, Miles Austin, he's just kind of scary at this point in his career. All this hamstring stuff, going up against a decent secondary with Seattle. He's not really liking Miles Austin this week.
All right, here we go. It is time for the bet of the week. I don't know if I can do that every week, folks. But
I hope you do.
As the reigning champ of the bet of the week, thank you, Greg Olson, 10.10 points. If we put the line at 10, I still would have won. That's neither here nor there. We said we weren't going to talk about it, but well, I did anyway. Regardless, this week we're talking about Mark Ingram, and the bet is over under 8.5 points in the same 0.5 PPR, the league that we're in together. And Dustin, try to explain to me why you think this bum's going to do that.
The Saints rarely play from behind. The reason I liked Ingram coming into the year is he's a guy that's going to get around 15 touches on a great offense and get the goal lines. I'm not expecting huge things from him, but I just think that he can consistently get 50-plus yards and have a good chance at a touchdown, and I think that's exactly what he has this week. So that's why I think the hate for Ingram has gone too far. I still don't hate him that much. He's a great guy to keep on your bench to have during bye weeks.
I'm even saying I dropped him in a league. He's a bum.
That's crazy.
Darren Sproles is the man out there. They should just use him every time. It doesn't matter. Put him in the backfield. Give him a carry or two.
How many carries did Sproles have last
year? He had 0, which was a huge problem, which is reflected in our rankings in the notes. I was angry about that too. Regardless, I don't see Ingram is there splitting carries with Pierre Thomas, who's both fighting for the scraps that Sproles is going to leave him. I think that sure there might be a goal line rush. It might go to Thomas, not the bum Ingram. He's slow. He doesn't move well. Blah. No way he's getting 8.5.
The hate has gone too far. It's not a good situation for him in fantasy land, but he's still worthy of a roster spot. The Saints didn't even want to draft him. He slipped to him, and the Saints were like, oh, I guess we're going to take him, and they're pissed right now. I'm going to level it up after I win this one.
Yeah.
Dustin, Nameco, if you got questions, post them in the forums. Don't post them on YouTube. Keep it all nice.
All the rankings are up on the site, too.
Check that out as well.
Got little notes. Fancy. Damn it.
Yes. Just call me Randall Cobb.